Hey, what's up? This is Ozric from 1320 Automotive. Come along with me today as we install a PPG straight cut central gear stack into a drag Cartel Billet bell housing for K-Series.
We're going to start off with this brand new billet housing. Pretty, I know, right? Look at it. We're going to install the input shaft main seal and the main bearing. Then we move over to the countershaft side where we have to modify the plate that covers the countershaft needle bearing. After that is complete, we're going to now remove the differential bolts so that way we can swap over the transfer gear. Now, please remember, on an all-wheel drive transmission, the bolts are reverse thread, okay? So in this situation, righty is not tighty. You're going to want to make sure you're going to go counterclockwise in order to get those bolts tight and clockwise in order to get those bolts loose. All right, go ahead and remove all of these bolts. There's about 10 of them. Then after that, you will be able to just take that transfer gear off. And you can see the transfer gear, the difference between them. The helical one is slanted, whereas the PPG one is straight cut. Go ahead and clean and inspect those bolts. If any of them need to be replaced, make sure you go ahead and replace them. You want to get all the debris and dirt off of them. And if there's any previous Loctite on them, you want to get those off as well, because you're going to be applying fresh new Loctite to these bolts. In this situation, I used the blue Loctite. I did not want to use the red one because sometimes that can be a little bit overkill for these bolts. Okay, now I make sure that while I'm tightening these bolts down, you want to mark each and every bolt after you have tightened it. That way you know that you've done it and you can see the order in which it's being done. It's being done in a crisscross pattern. That way you are applying that strength to them evenly. Now, as we begin to finish torquing down and marking the differential bolts, we're going to remove it from the vise, install it back into the bell housing, give it a nice little spin. Whee! Okay, now to do the differential main clearance. Usually you want to see this between 0 to 0.004 inches. All right, time for a quick Lambo break. Look at that thing. Pretty. All right, time to get back to work because dreams don't buy Lambos. Hard work does. All right, so now we're going to get back to work and do the main shaft clearance. Now, with the main shaft clearance, you want to see this between 0 to 4 and 0 to 0.7 inches. If you're using millimeters, it's 0.11 to 0.17. All right, torque down the countershaft bolt at the top. It's a reverse thread bolt. Drop it back into the bell housing. Check everything's good. Perfect. Mark the top of it. Next, we're going to adjust the magnetic pickup because you cannot fit in there in the custom side because of the bell housing. The billet one, you have to make it a little bit shorter. Now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and put some Honda Bond on the transmission, get ready to put this case on. This thing is coming along quite nicely. One thing that I just didn't forget to post in this video was just me installing the reverse selector as well as the reverse gear itself. But as you can see in the pictures, it's already down and marked and torqued down as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and slap that bell housing down. All right, give it a little nudge on each side. Next, what you want to do, put the forks in neutral. That's going to help the case to slide down a little bit better. Also, you want to get a needle nose pliers. Go ahead and then pry open the top of it right there. Tap it down. If you want, it makes it easier. Get a mallet. Boom. Tap it around it. Once you do that, the cases should pretty much be touching one another, and then now it puts you in a much better position for you to go ahead and install the bolts throughout the bell housing to go ahead and torque this down. All right, so we're going to go ahead. In this case, I have some titanium bolts. These are not the OEM bolts that are being used, but yeah, it's pretty much the same rule applies, and we're going to torque them down to the same spec. Okay, so these are going to get torqued down to about 20 foot-pounds of torque, as you're going to see here shortly, and you're going to make sure you're going to want to go in a crisscross manner as well. This is another thing you want to do, is to make sure that you are applying this pressure evenly on the bolts. Now that we're finished with the bell housing bolts, we're going to move on to the reverse bolt at the side. You want to make sure that the cylinder piece is positioned correctly prior to putting this bolt in. That way you don't have any problems. Otherwise, you'd have to remove the case. All right, we're going to torque this down. This is the bolt that covers the C-clip for the countershaft stack. These are the detail bolts that we're going to tighten, 16 foot-pounds of torque. Next, we're going to move to the shifter mechanism. All right, now clean this off. Apply some Honda Bond to it. Once you've applied the Honda Bond to it, go ahead and get your shifter selector. Make sure that it's also in a neutral position as well. And you go ahead and slide it in. You should have no issues getting this in. It should fit right in there. You're going to put those 410 bolts in there. Tighten that up. There's also going to be a bolt at the front. Okay, it's a hex bolt. You're going to make sure you put a little bit of Honda Bond in there as well. Tighten that in. Boom. Good to go. All right, quick little bench test for you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just to kind of give you an idea of the transmission selecting through the gears, as how it operates. All right, Give it a gear. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a 5th gear. There is no 6th. All right. And then there's reverse as well that we have. So everything on this transmission is complete and looks pretty good. And this transmission is ready to be installed back into the car. Good to go. There are a few things that I did not share because a true magician never reveals all of his secrets. All right. But this is just really to give you a general idea about how the assembly was. All right. I hope this video was very helpful and useful to you. Please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, go ahead and drop them below. Thank you very much.